So we kind of had to entertain ourselves. Like, I know I'm supposed to talk about
these webs
how
over
songs
here,
help me find myself.
all these webs over here.
Where'd you move here from, dumb?
Hey, before we begin, follow El Instagram. I post la memes. Sub to la Patreon. I need money. And yeah, that's it. What?
We want Night in the Woods and Life is Strange!
You have Night in the Woods and Life is Strange at home. Goodbye Volcano High is the latest game in the dear God, just play Night in the Woods instead genre. This game is a PS4, PS5, and PC exclusive. So sadly the Switch users, the target demographic, can't play it. Oh god, it's Persona all over again. So this game has been the eye of ridicule and controversy for a bit of a while. This game was announced at the PS5 Future of Gaming show, aka the place where they were announcing the PS5. So imagine, you know, you're getting all hyped up for, like, you know, Ratchet and Clank, Demon Souls, Spider-Man, then you see this shit.
What the fuck is this shit?
However, when I saw the trailer, I thought something very different. Oh my god. I have to review this. Everything from it being a high school game like Life is Strange, to the fact the game is furry garbage, which, I mean, hey, they give me fucking money. I mean, look, man, I'm just saying, don't fight the hand that feeds you, am I right? The fact that the game just doesn't look very good, it appealed to me in all of the wrong ways. However, the red flags went beyond just a few trailers and my own opinion, as this game, which by the way is a narrative-driven game, got narratively rebooted and was delayed into 2022. Oh, by the way, the game actually came out like a week ago. Oh, great, amazing. The game was also apparently part of some harassment campaigns, apparently. A lot of what I've heard is secondhand knowledge, but supposedly some developers got harassed. Some of it, if not most of it, over the fact the main character is non-binary, there's also a trans character in the game, and assumedly members from the queer community have also worked on the game as developers. And yeah, no matter how good or bad the game is, harassing people over LGBTQ plus rep is a deplorable thing. No, please, hold your awards. I do think that homophobia and transphobia is bad.
You know, with Hitler, the more I learn about that guy, the more I don't care for him.
This should obviously be common knowledge, but apparently it isn't. Either way, if you're harassing people over non-binary cartoon dinosaurs, you're probably a really pathetic person.
I mean, this guy was a real jerk.
And if you're mad at me for saying something like that, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really care. I listen to JPEG Mafia. But of course, obviously, the controversy and how people react to a game and the actual game itself are two different things. But hey, you know, this game seems very emotional, I think. Maybe there was someone's dog who thought about how to make the story, like, personal or something. And in my opinion, the best medicine for any kind of negative feedback is to prove people wrong by making a great piece of art. So, does Goodbye Volcano High defy everything by actually being good? No. In actuality, the game is a complete and utter mess. It's bad. I already had low expectations going into it, and the game ended up not only being underwhelming, but also completely broken. It includes one of the worst endings I've seen in a long minute. An ending that is a complete waste of time. This is overall not a good game. Do not waste your time with it. And I'm gonna sit here and talk about it for you. Oh, but before I do, and because I know someone's going to bring it up annoyingly, in 2021 and up until 2022, there was a game called Snoot Game that was released. It was made by 4chaners and is one part parody, one part fan game. And now that that's out of the way, let's talk about Goodbye Volcano High and why it sucks. Cue that Midwest emo music, shoddy.
Number 1, the game is broken.
So before anything else, I just want to say this game is broken. It's pretty buggy, dude, and it just feels really sloppy. I knew I was in for a treat when the game launched on the wrong monitor and not the main monitor that I have checked as my main monitor in my computer settings. And there's no option to change which monitor you're using at all. So I had to put the game into windowed mode, move it over to my main monitor, then put it back into full screen mode. I've rarely ever had that happen to me, and every time it has, there was always an option to change it. Oh well, bit of an early hiccup, but hey, I got it working. Except no I didn't, because I recorded an hour of footage and somehow, like, the first 10 minutes got fucked up. I was playing in borderless full screen, so I changed to exclusive full screen. And out of complete fear, I used 2 recording programs to record it this time at the same time. One of them ended up pretty salvageable, thank God. Meanwhile, the other one...
Honestly, I was starting to miss them.
For the record, I have no clue what happened here. The game has some kind of weird resolution bug, where I guess it displays 2 resolutions at the same time sometimes. I don't know. I have no clue if it's the game itself or just my recording software being fucky. But there was a point where the game randomly minimized on me and changed resolutions for no reason. There are also numerous other bugs, like for example, characters randomly disappearing, the screen randomly fading to black for no reason.
Practice canceled. Let's find a worm. Okay.
Trapaholics mixtapes.
There was one part where the game was telling me to press A or X or whatever, but no button was registering. Characters snapping from pose to pose for no reason. The characters' voices randomly getting cut off.
And I had to get Naomi to fix it and everything.
I got you.
The jiggle my balls.
What's up, you fucking tomato?
Whoa.
Yeah. I also wasn't sure what you like, so I have 2 different kinds.
And apparently I'm not the only one with this problem, because when I complained about it on X, other people also reported things like voice clips getting cut off, somebody got soft locked and had to restart the game. It's just a complete mess. Now, yes, I know this isn't exactly a AAA team or anything, but again, games like Night in the Woods and even Life is Strange came out perfectly fine. What's this game's excuse? And that's on top of the game's presentation itself. Because good lord, that's a whole other thing in and of itself. This is just not a good looking game at all. Nor is it a good sounding game. Now, when this game was coming out, people made fun of the character designs. That's a whole art style thing, and I can't really talk about that too much. But what I can say is the game isn't really convincing me that it looks good either. The game is trying to, you know, look like an anime. Oh well. And on the surface, yeah, this is impressive sounding. It's like an interactive cartoon anime movie. Whoa!
My name is David Cage.
But then you actually look at the damn thing and go, oh, wait a minute, this sucks balls. The animations are extremely stiff. A lot of these shots are very flat and look the same. Speaking of flat, look at this rhinoceros. Ew! Did they green screen her mouth on? What's going on here?
Austin, how should I feel?
This whole thing looks less like an actual, like a Dinosaur high school anime and more like a South Park parody of anime. In fact, honestly, I think South Park looks a little bit better than this fucking game. Oh yeah, remember those Ubisoft South Park games? Man, those games were so good. It was like playing through an actual episode of the show. Meanwhile, these characters look like steamroller victims. Whenever their front view happens, they look, why does this character look like that? What's going on here? What? Sometimes I have to like take a step back with how bad this game actually looks.
Hello, hello.
Hello, dearest lead singer.
What the hell is this?
The voice acting and sound design is also all over the place, but I can't tell if it's that or the visuals on top of that. But let me explain. Oftentimes the dialogue will have these really overly long pauses. They're so weirdly slow paced. This makes everything feel completely unnatural. Like the characters are waiting for each other's turn to speak, or they exist in completely different realities. And it makes the more dramatic moments feel way more drawn out, and again, completely unnatural. The dialogue pacing is just completely off in this.
Better to accept reality for what it is. No point in getting upset about it.
Maybe for you guys, but some of us had plans for the future.
Excuse me? Guys.
It's easy for you guys to give up on everything.
This is how the entire game is, by the way. Also, again, the animation is just awful. So certain times where a character is more excited just isn't communicated visually. And that's on top of just really bad lip syncing. Again, it's just so disjointed.
I saw Trish and Reed pop out earlier. Ah! I can't believe they ditched their biggest fans in their hour of triumph.
How are you doing that with your mouth?
Attempts at humor are also completely just terrible. Because again, everything is just awkward in this game. So attempts at comedy have no sense of flow or timing or anything to them. As a result, the game begotten me looking like this. Like this.
Sure. I gotta go. To my locker, but in a shady way. Because I have a terrible secret today.
Life is Strange somehow did this better. The characters are more prone to interrupt each other or talk right after the other one, which made everything feel more natural overall. Oh, by the way, there are also certain points where both subtitles and even in-game objects don't match up with what the voice actors are saying on screen.
Batman, don't stay up late. Nasser, keep up with your homework. Don't misbehave just because we are gone. Call cousin Amal if you need something.
What the fuck? A lot of the small stuff just ruins immersion. It just shows an overall lack of polish for this thing. Hey, you know what game was polished? The South Park game. No, I can't let you get away.
Part 2, the gameplay is bad.
Yeah, you aren't going to believe this. They messed up the gameplay in a narrative, story-driven game with little gameplay. I genuinely didn't think that was possible, but apparently it is. There are just a number of really baffling mechanics in this thing. One thing is the dialogue option. There's this weird mechanic where certain options will out of nowhere be grayed out, depending on which choices you chose earlier. At least sometimes it is, other times just a fucking fake out. Now this is kind of cool on paper. You're building a character as the story goes along, but the stuff that's on paper should have clearly been crumpled up and thrown away. It actually gives the player less freedom in a certain scenario, and overall feels like a random cop-out. If I want to be a needless dick for no reason, let me be a needless dick.
The council can kiss my ass.
There's also parts the dialogue starts shifting around. Ooh. It's kind of like a Heavy Rain from 13 years ago, a game that aged about as well as an open bottle of milk. A lot of this ends up being style over substance more than anything. It's more of a novelty than an actual good mechanic. But by far the worst piece of gameplay in this thing is the rhythm games. Holy shit, these are bad. These are some of the worst rhythm games I have ever seen in anything ever. So you get these 3 dots down here and you press a button to, you know, hit the dots in the dot. And you also get these controller prompts up here, A, B, X, and Y, you know, the traditional thing. And there are also stick prompts too that you pull down on. So overall, pretty straightforward, right? Here's the issue. These are very poorly designed. For one thing, the background video and all the stuff happening up here gets really disorienting. They'll show like flashbacks and shit, and it'll like distract you from the actual rhythm game that's happening right now. Wow, incredible. They learned lessons from the Guitar Hero Live School of how not to make a rhythm game. But get this, somehow these sections are still way too easy. So you would think that these, you know, bottom holes here represent a certain button on the controller, right? Like X, Y, and whatnot. Well, get this, they don't. Meaning you can press any button for any one of these and get it right. Not only that, but there is no penalty for open notes. Meaning you can just spam the X button and move the control stick around and just win the game. With no attention to the actual rhythm of the song at all. It's a rhythm game where you don't have to follow the rhythm of the song. Because of this, I got over 90% on all of my performances on my first playthrough. A Night in the Woods did this way better. In that game, there are also rhythm game segments, but for one thing, if you play an open note, you actually get fucking penalized for it. And the background side visuals aren't completely distracting either, meaning you can focus on the rhythm game segments of the rhythm game segments. Oh, here's another really annoying thing. There are 8 chapters in this game, right? Except the only indicators that tell you what chapter you're actually on are the Steam achievements, meaning there's no in-game indicator separating chapter from chapter. So in other words, fuck you if you want a goddamn break from this game. A lot of this stuff is pretty simple stuff, so I have no clue how they fucked it up. It's just a lot of completely baffling decisions all around. It's insane to me that they fucked up the gameplay in a game where gameplay isn't meant to be the focus. God damn it, I've been here for like 15 minutes and haven't even talked about the goddamn story yet.
Number 3, the characters all suck.
In a character-driven game with multiple choices and multiple character interactions, there is of course nothing more important than crafting good characters. Sadly, Goodbye Volcano High is not one of those games. A damn shame, as that's kind of a requirement for the genre. Now, of course, a long time ago, back in the elder years, I criticized Life is Strange, the video game, for having downright awful characters. In that game, I hated pretty much every single person and wanted them to die. It's kind of like you are the supercomputer and I have no mouth and I must scream. This abstract, almost Lovecraftian yet man-made abomination that hates humanity with every fiber of its being. A sentient creature who loathes humanity for giving him the curse of existence. And he's forced to watch as the slaves he keeps alive give in to their own depravities. Much like the main character's final punishment, Am has no mouth and must scream. The difference is, Am was already there at the start. That's what Life is Strange's characters were kinda like. I bring all this up because very clearly Goodbye Volcano High is in some way influenced by Life is Strange, and it seems like in that regard, it also paid some attention to the criticism towards it. The characters aren't nearly as vitriolic, which on paper is good until you realize that characters are completely boring. Even the characters that are meant to be quirky and come off as annoying at first end up just being sterile by the end. Now instead of hating every character, I just kind of feel for every character. Which, believe it or not, in this case is actually significantly worse than Life is Strange. Because in this case, I'm forgetting like most of the characters' names. And you know what they say, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. That's the thing, you need a balance because that's where your point comes from. But in Goodbye Volcano High, there is no balance. They try to make every character likable, but ended up driving in the complete opposite direction on the goddamn road. Anyways, let's actually get into these stupid-ass characters. First off, there's the star of the show. The main character of Fang, they're so obviously influenced by Chloe Price. They're alt and have the epic attitude and whatnot. Even the main actor,
genderqueer actor Lachlan Watson.
Lachlan Watson, there we go, that's very convenient. Even the main actor, Lachlan Watson, sounds like they're doing their best Ashley Birch impression.
Ooh, watch out, class president. Don't want to be caught throwing words like anarchy around.
I'd dose those candy-flipping morons and watch them twitch into a DJ dance death rattle. Take a photo of that.
Also, like Chloe Price, they get very upset when their friends don't hang out with them. So, literally, exactly like Chloe Price. But again, the game is way too afraid of making Fang too unlikable. So they portray it as this really sad, emotional, relatable fear. And it's so hilariously out of nowhere every time. I'm not sure if it's just how I played the game or not, but it felt so abrupt when drama started happening. Because every time things start bubbling up, it's brushed past so fast. This makes any actual flaws Fang does have pretty contrived. And are usually resolved like in the exact same scene like 5 minutes later. But by the way, this is the best character in the game. A boneless Chloe Price. I'm gonna sing Night in the Woods' praises again because that has two characters that does this better. What's funny in that game is that Mae Borowski, the main character, is actually unlikable. And she comes in and ruins the lives of a lot of characters in this game, but she never intends to. And the game very brilliantly humanizes her. And furthermore, it also deconstructs Mae and allows for a really smart exploration on mental illness. The other character is B, the goth crocodile. She's a goth who's also mad at her best friend, but this time, again, no spoilers, she kinda has a pretty good reason to be. And this leads into one of the most beautifully bittersweet subplots in a game that I've ever seen. Of course, no character in any of these games comes even close to Destroy Lonely and Look Killer.
Something for work on something together sometimes. I have some more ditch.
I guess.
Anyways, the next character is Trish, who's meant to be the funny, quirky best friend, except she's not very funny. The attempts at quirk come off as forced, and the chemistry between her and Fang is pretty unnatural, feeling more like a Saturday morning cartoon kind of best friendship. All with secret handshakes and all that, but rarely any actual connection. They're best friends by proxy, and that's about it. Again, this makes Trish a character who is pretty boring, all things considered. She's there to make the plot contrivances happen, and not be an actual good character on her own. Next, you have Fang's other friend, Reed. He's a very chill dude and loves playing not D&D. Now get this, again, this character is completely boring because he doesn't fucking do anything.
And you are also here.
Yep.
You have Nazer, Fang's older brother, who is the class president, and who you would think would be more traditional than Fang, and might lead to different ideologies between them, but again, it never really does at all. In other words, he doesn't do anything. There's also Rosa, a character I completely forgot existed until I recorded this line for her. There's also Sage and Stella, two besties. These two up the quirk factor to 1,000,000. At first, I thought I would hate these characters because I found them kind of annoying, but then they ended up not doing anything. Is there a disease for this? Although, ironically, Sage has the one interaction that I actually liked in the game. So Sage is trans and Fang is non-binary, right? And the two of them have one conversation about how they have trouble feeling accepted. And it's the one conversation I like in this game because there is one thing where the characters actually bond over something. Oh wait, it's over now and not expanded upon again? Oh wowie. I'm gonna fucking off myself in front of the goddamn writers of this thing. And finally, there's Naomi. This character is the yearbook committee's nerd emoji, and like Nazer, is very annoyingly diplomatic. However, this time she's the out-of-nowhere love interest, And one of the most awkwardly handled romances ever. Gotta say, the one slightly deep conversation really made me laugh out loud. It becomes even funnier when there's a mysterious text message Fang receives, and they don't think it's a scam or creepy or anything and start dumping their personal information into it. And then turns out it's Naomi the whole time, and the two become romantically involved. Shit just happens in this game, dude. These two characters barely show any respect for each other beforehand, so when the romance actually happens, it's so just out of nowhere. I think I'm still stunned they even went with this route. This is terrible. How do you make a character-driven high school game with a bunch of different colorful characters and forget to develop all of them? Life is Strange did this better. At least the characters goddamn did something. Goodbye Volcano High doesn't even try. It gives you the bare minimum of the bare minimum of the bare minimum. These are some of the most boring, unrefined characters I've seen in a minute. And sadly, those characters exist in the god-awful Part 4. The story sucks ass. I'm gonna keep this simple. There is one glaring issue with the story, and that's, nothing happens. This game took me roughly around 6 hours to beat, right? And I kid you not, for the first 4 of those, the game is pretty much dicking around about nothing. Nothing happens in the first 4 hours of this thing. So again, you play as Fang. They're a high school student and they have a band, and they want to play at Lollapalooza with Playboy Cardi. But there's also a giant meteor heading for the dinosaurs, which is brought up an hour into the game and not looked at again until the last, like, hour. Instead, you get a lot more time spent with characters talking about nothing with each other. It's like an endurance test for how much a pointless shit can go on in a game. I'm not even joking, it's really hard describing what goes on in the first 4 hours because nothing really does. It's established early on that Trish is big into bugs and wants to become a bug scientist, and this makes Fang worried that she'll leave the band and not be their bestest friend anymore. This is established through random internal monologues like a fucking Terrence Malick movie. You never feel the full brunt of them feeling like they're losing their best friend. And furthermore, Trish joins the band anyways in the end, so fuck it, Lamau. The writers really went to fuck it, we ball with this shit. Who cares? It's like everything in the story is made to waste your time.
I don't think we're on the same page about Caldera Fest. You never asked what we wanted. There's only so much time we have left. I can't spend the rest of it following along after you.
I've been doing whatever I want and ignoring what you want, and
we don't have to love the same things. We still love each other.
Did I rope you all into this? Did I make it all about me? My show? Our show.
You also have these completely just awful Dungeons and Dragons sessions where Fang joins their friend's D&D group. And at first I'm like, wow, this is kind of cute. And then these sections went on for like 10 million goddamn years. I'ma just say it, these sections are fucking awful. They're so boring. I started just skipping through them because they were so goddamn monotonous. Is there like a character development in these? Why not just do that in the actual fucking game, you morons? They then tried tying this in with the asteroid that's killing everyone, and it's like so fucking funny. Was there like no one on the team that just said, no, this might be a fucking dumb idea? I don't care about the shitty fake D&D campaign in your story. I care about the actual fucking story. It's like the story doesn't even want to tell itself, like it's ashamed of its actual narrative, which it should be, by the way.
You're a fucking ugly bitch.
The game is just so focused on disconnecting you from the narrative in the first 4 hours. So it's really funny when in like the last hour, at the last minute, everything starts happening at once. The characters start having conflicts that end in the very next like second. The characters have finally come to terms that an asteroid is going to kill them all and start worrying about it. The game starts rushing to wrap up all the character interactions that happened so far, which is what happens when the rest of your story is a narrative slog. Overall, the story is so incredibly boring. It's terrible. Oh, also there are dead memes in the game. Fuck you. But worst of all is the ending. Oh my god. So a long time ago, I criticized Life is Strange for being a choice-driven game where your choices don't actually matter at all. And in actuality, there were 2 endings dictated by one choice at the last minute of the game. Now, to be fair, Goodbye Volcano High does something very unique by outdoing Life is Strange in this regard. So of course the game opens with this "your choices will matter" warning screen. However, unlike Life is Strange, which had a similar warning screen but only 2 endings, which means that everything you've done up to that point is completely nullified, Goodbye Volcano High makes itself very unique by having 1 ending. And on top of that, the game ends with the characters dying. I'm not joking at all, by the way. So the game ends with all the characters panicking about the asteroid. Planes begin shutting down and everybody gets super fucking worried. Of course, this isn't until like the last 30 minutes of this 6-hour game, which means that Rolling Loud is canceled and Fane can't perform their Dom Corleone type rap beats. However, the band ends up performing their own concert themselves, and everybody shows up, and now the asteroid isn't taken seriously anymore.
Bang. For luck, I bestow upon you my most treasured, my most lucky, my most plastic gazpacho.
Or vibration.
I would kill myself tonight.
So the characters play one last shitty rhythm game, and the asteroid presumably hits them. And that's where the game ends. Everything you've done up to that point, every character you've connected with, even though you really can't because the writing's dog shit, it's just all gone. This warning screen was a scare tactic, meant to make you think the game is more choice-driven than it actually is. It's as if the game is raising its middle finger and saying, fuck you to everyone who waited and bought this game. I wasn't even excited for this game, and even I'm pissed off. Nothing matters whatsoever in this game. So, in other words, this game is a complete waste of fucking time. What a disaster. It's frustrating too because there are some really decent themes in this game, on paper at least. Having a story where a bunch of high school students who have big aspirations are confronted with the reality that they're going to die, and soon. You could easily do kind of a modern version of one of my favorite movies, The Seventh Seal. I know, weird fucking choice. That movie's about a crusader playing chess with death during the Black Plague. The film treats the inevitability of death as ominous, which it should be, and characters ask questions like, is there a god, which you would ask, and also it doesn't waste your time. Goodbye Volcano High fumbles this execution spectacularly, in a way that isn't intelligent or smart whatsoever. Even Night in the Woods, hell, especially Night in the Woods, that game had the ominous threat of adulthood and death looming over it, and that game made sure to not waste your time. It feels like they rushed this very real concept of dying in the last 30 minutes of this entire thing, like a high school project due at midnight. Do characters just not question any actual existential questions, like is there a god or anything? And before someone tells me that's too serious for the furry dino game, they say fuck in it.
Fuck off, Naomi.
Wait, is the asteroid just symbolism for growing up? Well, if that's the case, that's a pretty bad fucking example. Also, Night in the Woods did it better. Because first of all, that game didn't lie to you about the ending. The game never opens with the whole your choices matter thing. Instead, opening with gasp, actual world building that immerses you into the story and world of the characters. But for another thing, the ending fits so well with this game, despite only having two endings that don't really differ that much from each other. But yet, ironically, despite having not a whole lot of variation in the ending, the story and tone actually does change depending on who you hang out with. They change the fundamental narrative. You have to kinda play the game twice to get the full experience. And furthermore, the themes of growing up are tackled so beautifully here. Meanwhile, in Goodbye Volcano High, it's a bittersweet ending for a bittersweet ending's sake. It's good enough for games journalists, but not for me, a person with a working, functioning brain. What I'm saying is, if you want to play a high school game where teenagers tackle the idea of death, a game with actually fun characters and decent writing, a Persona 3 comes out in like 5 months.
This is the conclusion of the video. This is the conclusion of the video. This is the conclusion.
Goodbye Volcano High is a disaster. It's kind of funny seeing how derivative this whole thing is, but yet it clearly learned the wrong lessons from its contemporaries. And because of that, there are so many alternatives out there. And at the same time, this game is so dogshit in its own right that it makes games like Life is Strange look good in comparison. It makes you ask, what's the point of this existing? It doesn't really do anything unique or fresh with the genre, and it never holds your attention ever in the game. It feels like fan fiction for a source material that doesn't exist. From ideas that are not nearly as smart as the game thinks it is, to large portions of nothing happening that aren't nearly as interesting as the game thinks it is, to characters that aren't nearly as fun or enjoyable as the game thinks they are. It's just so goddamn boring. It is a slog to go through. It really does feel like a high schooler's creative writing assignment. This is not a good game whatsoever. Don't waste your time with it. Okay, that's it. Bye-bye.
The rough draft is still coming together.
Sounds like my wife.
Fuck you in the lane you came with. Me and you ain't on the same shit. You ain't in my lane, bitch. Nah, throw that shit in fifth. Rollie on my wrist. Ay, baby, you a star. I'm my only wish. I'm counting blue honey. like that, yeah. Getting high with the seat, lay back. Baby, gon' relax, yeah. Hey, they don't know the half, yeah. No matter what happened, I got your back. Baby, that's the facts, yeah. That's the facts, yeah. Yeah, we can fight, but the feeling's gone. I try to find the words, but they never come. I can still see you on the lawn, hey, laying outside in the summer sun. Yeah, we can fight, but the feeling's gone. I try to find the words, but they never come. I can still see you on the lawn, hey, laying outside in the summer sun. Hey, I'm with a dark-skinned girl on a Sunday. That's that Black Sabbath. She put them ones all down on a Hyundai, and she had to have it. Baby, that's the facts, yeah. That's the facts, yeah.
Should we leave before we get caught, or...?
Yeah, let's go to the Chrome Diner.
Oh, God. Since when are the scanners here?
Looks like the jig is up, girls.
God damn it.
Caught over stealing a $12.99 CD. I hope it was worth it. What band did you like so much, huh?
He's not wearing a Spitfire shirt.
Dude, the CD was hers. She brought it from home to trade in.
With the price label and security tag still on it?
She collects, right? Yeah, they lose collector's value if you take those off.
You girls are gonna need a better story than that.
Come on! What? But...
We have a runner! Freeze!
God damn it! Oh my god! Oh my god, no! He actually fucking shot me! What the fuck is wrong with you?
Maybe now you'll think twice about breaking the law.
You shot 5 bullets, so she'll think twice next time?
Yeah, it could have been less, but I fired with my eyes closed. Little inside challenge down at the precinct.
What? Are you actually fucking insane?
You know, you remind me of my wife a bit.
I want to fucking kill my wife!
Oh my god, what?
Shut your mouth before I blow your fucking brains out on the tile floor!
Oh, no, please don't. I'm sorry.
Now that's more like it. I'll call you girls an ambulance. One sec.